What if one veteran's unscripted moment of courage could move a queen to tears and remind an entire nation why some battles are never truly forgotten? On August 15th, 2025, at the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire, Queen Camilla appeared visibly emotional as a 105-year-old war veteran went off-script to pay tribute to King Charles during a VJ Day memorial ceremony. VJ Day on August 15th marks the 80th anniversary of the end of the Six-Year War, commemorating victory over Japan Day, when Japan surrendered to Allied forces in 1945, bringing World War II to an end. However, the story of those who served in the Far East carries a painful legacy. Much of the celebration in 1945 focused on VE, victory in Europe. Day in May, with those who served in the Far East labeled the Forgotten Army. The Royal British Legion organized this national service of remembrance, bringing together 33 veterans aged from 96 to 105 who served in the Far East and Pacific theaters. Among these extraordinary men were some of the last surviving members of elite units. Two of the last surviving Chindits, Charlie Richards, 104, and Sid Machine, 101, who served in the Elite Special Forces unit known for their deep jungle warfare tactics as part of Operation Thursday. Charlie Richards from Northamptonshire, who served in the 7th Battalion of the Leicestershire Regiment, spent months behind enemy lines ambushing Japanese supplies and communications, all while pulling along reluctant mules and heavy equipment. The 104-year-old veteran shared his motivation for attending. "I am so proud to attend the RBL's national event, and I think it will be a really poignant moment for those of us left. I want to represent all those who saw action in the Far East and remember those who never made it home, including my best friend and comrade, Son Johnson, who was killed in action in Burma." The setting itself was deeply meaningful. The National Memorial Arboretum, located in the village of Alrewas, serves as a site of national remembrance in Britain. Opened in 2001, the Arboretum includes hundreds of memorials to the men and women who have served their country in the military, civilian organizations, and volunteer forces. At the center of the Arboretum stands the Armed Forces Memorial, dedicated to the memory of the thousands of men and women killed on duty since World War II. The atmosphere was charged with both solemnity and anticipation, as Charles and Camilla joined Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and the veterans at the National Service of Remembrance. The ceremony began with profound respect. The service started with a national 2-minute silence and included flypasts by the Red Arrows and the Battle of Britain memorial flights Spitfire, Hurricane, and Lancaster. Military bagpipers played at dawn in the Far East section of the Arboretum, setting a tone of reverence that would carry throughout the day. The ceremony was hosted by actress Celia Imrie and featured readings by actor Robert Lindsay and veterans, as well as musical performances from the National Children's Choir of Great Britain. Around 1,500 guests gathered for this national commemoration, where they would hear first-hand testimony from veterans who experienced conflict in the Far East before the war ended, when atomic bombs fell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Ahead of the service, King Charles delivered a powerful tribute in a pre-recorded address to the nation from Clarence House, in which he hailed the courage and camaraderie of heroes who fought in the Pacific and Far East. The king's words carried particular weight as he vowed that the sacrifice of heroes who fought and died in the campaigns shall never be forgotten. He reflected on the horrors experienced by prisoners of war and innocent civilians of occupied lands in the region, noting that their suffering reminds us that war's true cost extends beyond battlefields touching every aspect of life. In his address, Charles also significantly acknowledged the devastation caused by the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which led to Japan's surrender, describing the immense price paid by its citizens as one we pray no nation need ever pay again. The king's words demonstrated the careful balance between celebrating victory and acknowledging the human cost of war. For Queen Camilla, this service held particular significance. She wore a white pleated chiffon dress by Dior and a white Philip Treacy hat, along with the rifle's brooch, representing the regiment of which she is Colonel-in-Chief. Her choice of jewelry was meaningful. She wore her favorite diamond and pearl drop earrings, a necklace with a pendant engraved with the initials of her grandchildren, several bracelets, and the diamond set brooch in the shape of the cap badge of the rifles. Many of the veterans present had never told their stories before registering with the Royal British Legion to be part of commemorations marking the 80th anniversary of victory over Japan. These men, now in their 90s and beyond, represented the final living links to one of history's most brutal theaters of war. Among them was Joseph Hammond, 100, whose testimony would be shared during the service. Though he watched the live broadcast from his home in Ghana, 3,000 miles away. Hammond's story exemplified the lasting impact of the Far East campaign. He fought in Burma in the 82nd Division in brutal conditions near the Irrawaddy River and suffered a serious eye injury that kept him hospitalized until the war ended. His message was clear and haunting. Why should such a thing happen? Man killing his fellow man. Humanity destroying humanity. Never allow your country to go that way. It's no good. I know how it feels, so I have to advise everybody to keep away from war. Let us continue to enjoy our peace. But it was Captain Yavar Abbas, 105, originally from Lucknow in India, who would create the moment that moved the Queen to tears. Abbas, who had served as a captain in the 11th Sikh Regiment, was scheduled to take the stage at the National Memorial Arboretum to read extracts from his diaries during his time in Burma in 1945. However, this remarkable centenarian had something else on his mind. The moment that would define the entire ceremony came when Abbas decided to deviate from his prepared remarks. As he stood before the gathering of 1,500 people, including the King and Queen, he made a decision that came straight from his heart. The veteran looked directly at the royal couple and declared, "I make no apologies for briefly going off the script to salute my brave king, who is here with his beloved queen in spite of the fact that he is under treatment for cancer." The impact was immediate and profound. Queen Camilla looked at her husband sitting next to her and appeared to wipe away a tear. The emotion was genuine, raw, and deeply moving. Applause rang out among the crowd as Abbas continued, sharing that he too had battled cancer, adding that he hoped it would bring comfort that he had been rid of the disease himself for 25 years. Abbas wasn't finished. With the authority that only comes from having lived through the crucible of war and the wisdom of 105 years, he added, "I salute him for gracing this occasion, because by his presence here, he has gone a long way to make sure that his granddad's 14th Army is never given the sobriquet again of the Forgotten Army." This reference to King George VI's 14th Army carried enormous historical weight. The 14th Army, commanded by General William Slim, had indeed been known as the Forgotten Army, because their sacrifices in the Burma campaign had been overshadowed by the focus on the European theater. For Abbas to acknowledge that King Charles's presence helped restore dignity to this overlooked chapter of British military history was both profound and deeply personal. The immediate response to Abbas's unscripted tribute was overwhelming. The applause that erupted from the 1,500 guests was more than polite acknowledgement. It was recognition of a moment of genuine human connection that transcended protocol and touched something fundamental about courage, both in wartime and in facing personal battles like cancer. King Charles himself was visibly moved by the tribute. Later, during the reception that followed the service, Abbas would reveal that the king had told him something deeply personal. He said to me, "When you said that, I almost cried. That's our king, and he's a great king." The veterans' courage in going off script perfectly embodied the spirit of the men being honored that day. These were soldiers who had operated behind enemy lines, who had faced impossible odds in the jungles of Burma, who had endured years as prisoners of war, and who had been willing to deviate from orders when human decency demanded it. Queen Camilla's emotional response resonated far beyond the moment itself. Her tears represented more than just personal sympathy for her husband's health battle. They embodied the recognition of shared humanity between those who serve and those who lead, between the past and the present, between the veterans who had given their youth to their country and the royal family who continues to serve today. After the service, the king made his way to the far east corner of the Arboretum, where he met Silas Sarba and Kadak Chetri, the grandsons of Second World War soldiers, as well as William Slim, the great-grandson of General Bill Slim, who led the so-called Forgotten Army. This meeting bridged generations, connecting the sacrifice of the past with the responsibility of the future. The dinner reception that followed provided an opportunity for more intimate connections. The king, queen, and prime minister chatted at length with several of the Far East veterans, including Abbas. It was during these conversations that the full impact of the day's events became clear. Speaking to reporters after the reception, Abbas remained unrepentant about his decision to speak from the heart. "I make no apology for going off the script. I admire the man. I admire the king. He has similar views about things as I have. About the environment, for example. He's human." The veteran's assessment of his monarch was both simple and profound. "That's our king, and he's a great king." Coming from a man who had served under King George VI during wartime and witnessed the best and worst of human nature, these words carried exceptional weight. The long-term implications of this moment extend far beyond a single ceremony. Queen Camilla's visible emotion humanized the royal family in a way that no carefully crafted public relations campaign could achieve. Her tears demonstrated that beneath the protocol and pageantry, the royals are people who can be moved by genuine expressions of loyalty and courage. For the veterans, many of whom had waited 80 years for proper recognition, the Queen's emotional response validated their service in a profound way. The fact that their stories could move the Queen to tears confirmed that their sacrifices had not been forgotten and would not be forgotten. The moment also highlighted the unique relationship between the monarchy and the military. Unlike elected politicians who come and go, the royal family provides continuity that spans generations. King Charles's great-uncle, Lord Mountbatten, had commanded in the Far East during the war. Now, 80 years later, Charles himself was carrying on that tradition of service and remembrance. The ceremony's broader cultural impact lies in its demonstration that genuine emotion and authentic human connection can still break through the barriers of protocol and formality. In an age of social media and carefully managed public appearances, Queen Camilla's tears represented something real and unscripted. As the nation reflected on this remarkable day, the image that remained was not of military precision or royal protocol, but of a queen moved to tears by a veteran's courage and a 105-year-old man brave enough to speak truth to power. It was a reminder that the most powerful moments often come not from what is planned, but from what comes from the heart. Captain Yavar Abbas had indeed gone off script, but in doing so, he had created a moment that will be remembered as one of the most authentic and moving in recent royal history. Queen Camilla's tears were not just a response to his words, but a recognition of the profound truth he had spoken about courage, service, and the enduring bonds that connect those who serve their country across generations.